Delighted to be here. When last I spoke, I started my talk by saying how very hard it is to be a person. And today's remark, I want to talk about how easy it is to be a smart person. So, as faculty, we all think that, it's great to be smart, and, that's a really good thing. And we think that that should be judged by presumably our actual intelligence, however you measure it. It turns out that in the world, the actual variance explained in people's perceptions of intelligence by your actual intelligence is only about 30%. So simply put, 70% of what makes you seem intelligent has nothing to do with how intelligent you are. Now, you might see this as a real problem or a frustration if you do want to count yourself among the intelligent, which people at CASBS certainly like to. But as a designer, you can think of this as a tremendous opportunity. No matter how smart computers get, no matter how hard people work in making them smart, they're only going to get to 30% anyway. So why don't we look for where the real leverage can be obtained by figuring out what can we do with the 70% to make computers seem much smarter, and that's what I focus on, with the idea that, similar to the idea that if computers are actually smarter, people like them better and they'll do better. If computers seem smarter, they'll like them better and do better. So I want to talk about some examples that emerge from real-life design. One of the things Barbara and I decided to do today was to encourage people to talk about actual experiences they had. And what we would hope to do is sort of riff on what's the underlying psychology or technology or design that's really lurking behind what might just seem frustrating or annoying or, oddly enough, sometimes making you happy, much less so in technology systems. So that's what we'll be talking about today. The first study came from an experience when I got a panic call from BMW, who had at the time invented the single best navigation system in the world. It was the most accurate, the best designed, et cetera. And they were in a panic because they had to have a product recall. And the reason they had to have a product recall, this was in Germany, the reason they had to have a product recall was the voice of the system was female, and German drivers would not take directions from a woman. And not only were they offended by this, but they were sure there were fundamental problems. So what's great is to listen to these calls to customer support of irate male drivers of the BMW 5 Series saying something on the order of, my navigation system doesn't work. And they would say, my goodness, we believe it's fine. Was there a particular problem? And they said, no, you don't understand. It's a woman. And the customer support person would say, well, sir, it's not actually a real woman in the car. It is simply a recorded voice. This somehow didn't calm the drivers down. And they said, no, you don't understand. It's a woman. And they said, well, sir, if it makes you feel any better, all of the designers and map makers were male. So you needn't worry that you will get bad directions, which has its own interesting issues associated with it. But nonetheless, it didn't work, and they actually had to have a product recall and download a male voice. So this was quite striking to me, and we decided actually to do a study in which we looked at whether computers with male voices or female voices would be stereotyped. Now, we didn't have access to these German drivers, so we decided to use presumptively liberal, ungender-biased Stanford students in our study. So we used Stanford undergrads, and we had a computer teach the subjects about 3 subjects, love and relationships, computers, and then a neutral subject, I forget what, mass media or something like that. And then we had the computers evaluate. And then we had a third, then they took a test on a second computer, which didn't have a voice. And the third computer, which had a different male or female voice, would then evaluate the performance of the first computer, saying either the computer did a good job or a bad job. And this was actually in the days when you could actually, for the first time, have human speech that sounded like human speech off of a computer. We were using Next computers. So what happened? Well, among this group of students who insisted they harbored no gender stereotypes whatsoever, and even if they did, they would not be foolish enough to apply it to a computer, we found that the female computer was a better teacher of love and relationships and a worse teacher of technical subjects. And as far as praise, the female voice computer was taken less seriously when it praised than the male voice computer. The male voice computer was more influential. Again, people insisting that this couldn't happen because, after all, they wouldn't stereotype people or computers. So this suggests that, not that I advocate that people should follow stereotypes, and in fact, there are advantages in systems not following stereotypes, but it suggests that stereotypes can be successfully used if you want to seem smarter. Follow the stereotype and you'll get advantages. So we then wanted to go to a second domain, and we were contacted by Amazon.com. And Amazon was interested in the idea of ordering books by phone. They still don't do that. Turns out it's an extremely hard problem because the number of books is large and changing, and a very difficult problem. But they asked us to study what would happen if the system made mistakes. After all systems, especially voice systems, and especially intelligent systems. So one of the most interesting things about intelligent computers is they make more mistakes. The stupidest systems, when you click on a button, they know what the button does. When you don't click on it, they know. When it comes to voice, it's a much harder problem. So Amazon asked us to help with the issue of what would happen if the computer, the voice system, didn't understand you. Now, right now, the vast majority of voice systems all say the exact same thing when they don't understand you, and that is, I did not understand you. Please repeat it. In other words, they're modest. They blame themselves. Well, what do we know about modesty and intelligence? Well, turns out we like modest people, but we actually think they're dumb. We believe their modest comments. So when you say, oh, no, I'm not very good at that, people go, good to know. Thank you for telling me. So we decided to see if this was true with the system. So in this case, we built 3 versions of the system. And in one case, the system did what most systems do, which was to say, when it didn't understand you, it would say, I'm sorry, I didn't understand you. Please repeat it. In another case, it would simply say, that was not understood, not blaming itself, simply announcing the fact that there was no understanding. And in the third, and my favorite case, it would blame you. It would say, that was not understood, please speak more clearly, or stop slurring. Now, what's funny is people react very negatively to that in the voice arena, but think how often your computer in text will say things like, you typed the wrong key, you're an idiot, et cetera, et cetera. So it turns out voice is much more sensitive than text in these domains, but this system would actually just tell you to shape up or ship out. It was this pretty smart. Now, perhaps not surprisingly, the system that yelled at people was a poor seller of products. The system that blamed itself sold a heck of a lot more products, and in fact, people liked it much better. Fine. But when we asked people how many errors they thought had happened in the interaction, we fixed it so it was the same for everyone. The system that blamed itself was seen as making the most mistakes. And the system that yelled at you was seen, though disliked, was seen as making the fewest mistakes. So it shows that sometimes intelligence and liking are traded off, but if you want to be liked and if you want to be seen as intelligent, don't take blame, blame somebody else. Now, in a follow-up study to this, working with Microsoft and the dread Microsoft paperclip, which everyone hated, we were asked to make it lovable without changing any of its fundamental software, without making it more intelligent. This seemed like an onerous task since everyone hated it. But we were able to succeed by using an even better strategy than blaming someone else, but by blaming a third party. So what happened is, when you would type in a request for help and it wouldn't help you, the paperclip would say, was that helpful? And if you type no, right now systems will say, thank you for that feedback, nothing else. This system said, that really pisses me off. Let's tell Microsoft how lousy their help system is. And it popped up an email to Microsoft's customer support, your help system needs support. And as you were typing the email, the paperclip would go, come on, you can be more direct than that. Now what happened? Not only did people love the paperclip, they thought it was a genius. Unfortunately, Microsoft couldn't deploy it because they hated Microsoft and thought they were stupid for deploying, for having this system. So scapegoating is a very effective intelligence strategy. A third effective intelligence strategy is similarity. Turns out the more similar you are to someone else, the smarter you seem. And we did this, for example, in a study in personality. So a student of mine and I designed, for example, messages from the system that were either quite confident and forceful, say, you should definitely do this, is the right thing to do, blah, blah, or highly tentative, would say, perhaps you might want to do this, it could be that this. And when we designed this study, and then we were going to compare those with, dominant or submissive individuals. And when we both designed the study, She's now the associate dean at Harvard Business School. So we both come high on dominance. We looked at these and said, oh my God, no one could like these pathetic submissive messages saying perhaps, maybe, you know, it's obvious it doesn't know what the hell's going on. It's a moron, can't even figure out anything. But just to be sure, we pulled in a student who we knew was submissive, which is easy to do with submissive students. They pull easily, and showed him the two sets of messages. And to our shock, the first set he goes, oh God, a bull in the china shop, thoughtless, you know. Here's the nuance, deep understanding. Realized that this study might work, and it did. And and sure enough, the dominant people thought the dominant computer was more smart and intelligent, also likable, the submissive computer more. Submissive people liked it better. We've now done this with probably 20 different things, including voice style, personality, et cetera. We even did one where the system uses your own face to tell you whether you're doing well or not. And remarkably, when people saw their own face telling them they did poorly or well, not only did they like it better and think it was smarter, they actually thought it said nicer things about themselves. So we'll stop there, and I think we now crosstalk.